we go. Let's see if I can't get this right this morning. There we go. Right. But yes, anyway, good morning. Welcome, one and all, again, to the Good Morning Walk. Chickpea, good morning to you. Welcome to what is a very, very dark and drizzly morning here in Yorkshire. Oh, Nick Drift, good morning to you. Catholic, good morning to you. Like I say, this might be... Oh, there we go. This might be a somewhat... This might be a somewhat short good morning walk because it's expected to absolutely tip it down, possibly in the next few minutes. Like I say, I don't know if you can see the sky on here. Looks a lot brighter on the screen than it does actually in real life. But yeah, it is threatening to rain, so this might be a good morning walk where we have to take cover under a tree for a bit. But yes, good morning. As always, welcome to you. Destiny 2 in a bit of a moment. Well, good morning to you, Ben. I hope you can find some good loot on your Destiny 2 run. I've never been able to get into Destiny 2. Well, any of the Destiny games, I've played it. Never been able to get into them, but I am still enjoying New World. Despite its problems, I think that game has a lot of potential. And I think Amazon definitely has got the resources and the manpower to make it happen, but we'll see. But yes, good morning. One and all to other people joining us today. Like I say, I can feel the rain starting to come down on us now. But yes, I'll have to say this now. I cannot wait until my contract is up because, oh my word, like, so many stories I want to be able to tell you and I can't because I'm contractually obligated not to. But trust me, once it's up, stories. Happy non-political walk, yeah. That's it, yeah. Like I say, that's probably what it's going to be until March. We'll have to wait and see. What do I do as a job? I've currently got a contract as a COVID communications officer for a local council. So, as you most probably all know, I would normally in these walks do a little roundup of the political news that's going on this week, but because, like I say, I am now technically like a civil servant, I'm not allowed to, shall we say, publicly espouse my political views, which is annoying, but because that's what my channel was. But yeah, like I say, until that's up, I can't, but let's just say I go to some very, very interesting meetings. And trust me, when it's all over, I will love to tell you all about them. But yes. But yes, Is there anyone in the workplace who knows me? No. But I had to tell them just in case, just because I don't want to risk it. And like I say, that's as far as I'm really going to go with it. Because like I say, don't want to risk my job because it's a very interesting job, and I've got some, you know, very good pay coming in it, to be honest. And like I say, I think, you know, I'm a lot more fortunate than others than I know in my situation. Good old Barnsley Shire. True, you can see the wonderful landscapes of Barnsley around me here today. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, I said last week I really wanted to talk about Star Wars Visions, because as far as I'm concerned, I genuinely think that Star Wars Visions is probably one of the best things to happen to the franchise, and wait for it, since episode 7? No, so since episode 8, The Last Jedi. Because I like The Last Jedi. I really, really do. I think it was different. And I think that's what Star Wars needed. It needs to tell different stories. And that's exactly what Star Wars Visions is. It's an anthology series created by a load of different anime directors. And one of the things about especially like the Japanese perspective, if you've got to remember, the original Star Wars was based on Akira Kurosawa samurai films. So the Seven Samurai, and especially the Hidden Fortress, were massive influences on George Lucas. So turning over and giving the reins to, you know, the Japanese, especially Japanese animated directors, they've probably got a really, really unique perspective on Star Wars themselves, and to be honest, knocked it out of the park. Absolutely knocked it out of the park. Here, may the force be with you and the coffee. Thank you very much. But they have absolutely knocked it out of the park. And I really, really hope, and let's face it, it's Disney at the moment. I hope we are going to get a continuation of maybe like another Star Wars Visions. Don't get me wrong, that would be good. I'd definitely love to see another anthology around. What happened to my daily videos? I've got a contract with the civil service, so until my contract's up, I can't really talk about politics until it's up. So until then, these good morning walks are going to be my opening my nerdy soul to you all as I currently am walking through the somewhat pouring rain today. So have to, excuse me, I've got my phone balanced in like a very odd situation so that it protects the screen as much as possible, otherwise the phone's going to get absolutely soaked. Yep, it's coming down now. We might have to just jump underneath the tree in a bit. But to be honest, all of Star Wars Visions, all the shorts that they've produced are amazing. I can't really say, to be honest, that there's a bad one in the bunch, but there are two especially that I know a lot of people would love to see actually become like a proper series. The Ninth Jedi and Lop and Ocho. Both those I would love to see a proper continuation of. Don't get me wrong, the other shorts, don't get me wrong, good. But those two in particular, oh my word. If you've ever watched a series, or you've gone into a series, or like someone's said to you, you've got to watch this series, and then you've watched it, and then you end up like watching the entire series later on. It's like one of those, that was especially for me for those 2 episodes. I was like, I want to see more. I want to see what happens next. You've deliberately set it up that, there's going to be almost a continuation of these series, and I would love to see where they take the characters in this series, because they are really, really good shorts. Yep, and it is. There we go. I don't know if you can hear it, but it is absolutely tipping it down at the moment. So, I've said before, I think, I'm a big fan of The Mandalorian. That's fantastic, because Star Wars really was almost made to be an anthology series. If you've never delved into the expanded universe of Star Wars, then you've probably missed out, but probably not a lot, because like any anthology series, there is, there's the good and the bad. And some of that obviously has been consigned to the dustbin of history, which again, understandable from Disney's point of view, because they didn't want to have all that that backlog of stuff, which is understandable. So I understand them getting rid of it. And Dark Horse especially. Dark Horse, easily one of the most probably prolific areas of the expanded universe and the material that they created. What's the one? I have a series called Star Wars Legends that they did, which was sort of very, very close to, obviously, to the end of Lucas selling Star Wars. So it's a bit of an interesting series in the fact that the beginning lot of the series is really good, but then when they got noticed that the Star Wars Christmas special is the best, we won't talk about that. We won't talk about that. But ultimately, Star Wars Legends, I think, is such a good series in itself, and I would definitely recommend tracking it down if you can. You can still find it on Amazon and get the series. There's also the I think Comixology. If you've got that, you can find it on there. But it is very, very, very good. And the whole premise of it is it's the great grandson of Luke Skywalker, called Cade Skywalker, and essentially the Sith have sort of returned in force in this new Sith empire, and not only are they there as a presence, but there is what was left of the Empire, called the New Empire, which is run by a new emperor, and he has his own sort of Jedi order with white lightsabers, and they're sworn to uphold like the new Imperial Creed. There is obviously the Republic, or the New Republic, that is there, and again they had the Jedi there, and it's all these sort of new factions in this sort of new time period of Star Wars. And to be honest, it's really, really good. I don't want to spoil too much more of it, but if that sort of interested you, then definitely go and seek it out. Got a lot of very interesting concepts for the Sith, especially, because if you know, again, Star Wars lore here, but if you know anything about the Sith, they have what's called the Rule of Two, and in Star Wars Legends, they introduced the idea in this new Sith Empire called the One Sith, and in the Sith Order, there ends up being almost this dispute over the new dogma. A Death Troopers. That's the that's the AKA the Star Wars zombie book. And again, that was one of the last. I think that was like one of the last novels published before Disney took over, from what I remember. I'm just wondering now if it's, how is it? Can we risk it? No, it's still tipping it down. But anyway, we'll remain here for the time being, under some shade. But yeah, I really, really loved Star Wars Visions, purely because it told those different stories, and that is, to me, and I know I'm going to annoy a lot of people because I've seen someone say that the new movies, quote, had no soul. I disagree. I really, really disagree. I really, really loved The Last Jedi. I think it brought a lot of new ideas and changes to Star Wars that were really good. So the idea of like Ben Solo or Kylo Ren, depending on what you want to call him, basically saying, hey, you should just let the past die. You know, the Sith are over as a concept, so are the Jedi. Their ideas are old. I would have loved to have seen that continue as an idea and a concept of there being a creation of a sort of new villainous, identity. That would have been really good. Maybe even see Kylo Ren create a new Sith Order that, again, isn't based on the Rule of Two, that is based on something completely different. Again, I would have loved to have seen those ideas come to more fruition. But unfortunately we didn't. I mean, episode 6, The Force Awakens, everyone's right in the sort of it was really almost a retelling of the original Star Wars, A New Hope, in a way, because I think at that time it needed to see and have that safety of, hey, Star Wars is back. We're going to do trying these new things. We want to see how people react. And people reacted mostly positively because it was something familiar. When they took that next step in the next movie, and they had Luke, who, again, I think it fits Luke's character arc perfectly. He goes on from, being the Jedi in Return of the Jedi to trying to start a new Jedi Order, and he repeats the mistakes of the past. In a moment of weakness, he, almost went to kill one of his students because he saw the darkness that could come from one of them. That is a good character moment for Luke Skywalker. And it would have been good to see him, go forward with that even more. But of course, the audience didn't like that, so we had to change it even more. But of course, it's just so annoys me when audiences react like that to sort of character progression and stories that we could tell with new characters and new different ways, and they don't let the the characters progress as characters, have these new stories that they could tell. Luke Skywalker must always be this absolute perfect individual, and you think about it, in the Star Wars universe, there are no truly perfect individuals. Even Han Solo is not a perfect individual. You could almost argue that the original Star Wars story is especially from like Han Solo's point of view, is a guy who comes from being a smuggler and is a killer, because Greedo did shoot, Han did shoot first, not Greedo. This sort of very ruthless smuggler who we know smuggles drugs for a very infamous, gangster in the universe, goes on to become sort of a hero of the rebellion. That is his story, how he starts off there and becomes more. I really am looking forward to Andor, because Star Wars Rogue One was really, really good. I'd love to see more one-offs take place like that. Oh, I think the rain stopped. Yeah, it has, so we're going to continue. So I would love to see more stories like that, and I'm really looking forward to the fact that we do have Andor coming up, because Andor in Rogue One puts forward probably one of the best concepts there is. The idea that really in, again, the original Star Wars series, you don't really hear too much about the rebellion. We know that they have this fleet, but what exactly has the rebellion been doing to fight back against the Empire? Well, obviously they're going to be resorting to sort of guerrilla warfare tactics, hit and run tactics, not just on like military outposts, but as we see in Andor, Andor literally kills one of his informants who came to him because he knew that if he was captured, the Empire might track on to what was going on. We see that even though in the movies the rebellion is meant to be, again, this force of good, and don't get me wrong, they can be a force of good. The problem is that in reality, if the rebellion was to ever really win against the Empire, they would have to really resort to some, well, dark tactics. And I hope in Andor, the series that's coming out on Disney Plus, I think next year, or maybe a couple of years now, but I know we're getting it, so that's going to be good. We get to see that. We get to sort of see, even though the rebellion has, this ideas of, restoring the Republic, and this very, very sort of notion that they can, restore hope, which is, again, a good story and a good plot hole really through all the Star Wars movies themselves. The idea of, restoring hope to a galaxy where hope has almost been crushed is a good idea, but realistically, how can a ragtag group of rebel fighters really ever hope to take on the Empire without resorting to underhanded tactics? And, they can't. There has to be, the rebels have to employ assassins to take out targets. they would probably be involved in some way in maybe illicit drug smuggling, maybe, to help fund their operations. You know, there's all these questions really around when you start to think about how on earth the rebels must actually operate and be in reality, and they don't do it. So it would be very, very interesting to see what the story of Andor is going to be. Obviously, I think it's going to be very much helmed by the people behind sort of Rogue One, by the sounds of it, which is going to be quite cool. So I'm looking forward to see how that goes. But yeah, I think there is a really bright future for Star Wars. I mean, The Mandalorian, no one will be able to say is not a fantastic show. Yeah, Patreon for the rebels. You know, The Mandalorian was a fantastic show. And again, I want to see where that goes, because if you know anything about sort of the Mandalorians, they really have sort of become, what's the best way to describe them? They're like the Klingons in Star Trek. They've gone under this massive transformation over the years from essentially being the armor that Boba Fett wore, because that was what the name of his armor originally was. It was just called Mandalorian armor. To sort of them becoming, you know, an entire group of people, to a race, to now it's like a creed that anyone can sort of follow, to sort of almost becoming very much like the idea of the Jedi, almost, in a way. And I think that it's going to be very, very interesting, because very much introduced the idea of what is a Mandalorian, and you know, who can call themselves a Mandalorian. And just because you follow the code of the Mandalorian, does it really make you you know, to see how that follows up. Obviously, I think this Christmas we've got the Book of Fett, which is going to be like the continuation of Boba Fett, which could be very interesting, and I think is definitely going to delve into sort of the dark criminal underworld of Star Wars. So that could be very interesting, definitely, to see how that goes. I'm very much looking forward to how that turns out. There has been also talks for years of doing a fighter pilot series of Star Wars, and I don't know if that has been put on the slate for like stuff that's coming out, but I hope that is, because again, one of the influences for the original Star Wars was sort of the 1940s serial classics that again sort of had some sort of World War II themes about, you know, pilots. You know, even in the original Star Wars, you had like in the first one, you have like Han and Luke They're on the guns, which is very, very reminiscent of like World War II, bomber pilot cockpits and armaments, which is again would be really cool to see like a fighter pilot series. Will they go there? I don't know, but I hope they do. You're watching the Clone Wars at the moment. The Clone Wars is actually pretty good. Dave Filoni, who's behind the Clone Wars? He did a really, really good job. And to be honest, from a series where a lot of fans were not expecting a lot of it, I'd say he did really good. I'd say he did really, really good. Catholic. The rebels first hit hard and hit fast with a major, and I mean major, leaflet campaign. That's why the Empire was reeling from it. They followed up with a drive, a car boot sale, so even street theatre, and possibly even some benefit concerts. True. Ever so true. But yeah, I really do hope we do get those different stories, because I think once they learn, or I think as they are now realizing that Star Wars can be this anthology series that you can tell the names under, like the Star Wars brand. Like there was, like the attempt of this was obviously Rogue One, which was really, really good. And then you had Solo, a Star Wars story. And I've viewed this film, I must have watched it about 3 times, and I've gone through so many different feelings about it. Like, the first time I watched it, I thought, entertaining, but meh. The second time I watched it, I thought, I hated it even more. But the third time I watched it, I actually really liked it, and I really couldn't understand why. And I think telling the story of sort of a young Han Solo is not a bad idea. I think it could work, as like a film or even a series. I think it definitely had some very good moments to it. I did like the fact that they kept continuity with the fact that Darth Maul was around during that time, and that, he was like building his own sort of secret underground criminal empire. So I do like that they kept that in. They also mentioned, and me being a Star Wars nerd, mentioned Terraskazi. I brainwashed myself into liking it. The thing is though, I when I watched it, and especially that third time, it's not that I didn't enjoy watching it. I think that's the first thing. Even like the first viewing of it, like the first time I saw it in the theatre, it's not that I didn't enjoy it. I don't know. I felt that, like, my first thoughts of coming out to see the Han Solo film were always, this feels like they could have done more, and they didn't. That's what it always felt like. Because I really enjoy, like, the first part of the film. So if you see Han has grown up on Corellia and is, or was, part of this, childhood gang, he's sort of locked into it, and he has an opportunity, or sees an opportunity to escape, and, he takes it and ends up, joining the Empire, gets kicked out of flight school, even after being told, he's a really good pilot, because again, Han Solo is not someone who will, submit fully to authority. So he gets busted all the way down to an Imperial soldier. And then you sort of get that initial escape. Although, to be honest, I would have loved to have seen scenes of, Han Solo at the Imperial Academy. That might have been, again, something interesting to have seen, but again, we didn't get to see it. We were just told. And, of course, the old adage of film itself, you need to show, don't tell. So I feel like they could have shown us, Han Solo going to, the Imperial Academy, and doing this, and that would have been really cool. But unfortunately, we didn't get that, which is a bit disappointing. But the other actually interesting thing is, I am a big fan of Admiral Thrawn, all going all the way back to sort of his original introduction. And what was the original series now? I can't remember. Much prefer the last part of the movie with the showdown. The first half of the movie is a mess. You can tell they switched the directors halfway through. Yeah. The showdown is, it's a typical good showdown. Hollywood, and especially sort of Disney, when they can do that stuff, they've got good people behind them, so they know, how to do it. And I did forget they changed directors halfway through. But I did really like that first part. And I think, again, if you're going to tell, the story of, a young Han Solo, him being at, the Imperial Academy, heir to the Empire, that's it. Him being at, the Imperial Academy might be, him showing, his hatred for the Empire, and something like why he would never join the Empire, even though, he could have done really well in the Empire as a pilot. Anyway, Admiral Thrawn, or Grand Admiral Thrawn. He obviously showed up in the original, in a book trilogy by Timothy Zahn, called Heir to the Empire. And ever since then, Thrawn has been very much a fan favourite character. In fact, a lot of people, for years, were hoping that if they were ever going to make sequels to a Star Wars film, or to the original trilogy, that would be the books that they would go with, myself included. Like I say, they're very, very good. Of course, they're, quote, not canon anymore. They're now legends. But I have actually recently got 2 of the audiobooks. And I have to say this, by the way, the audiobook series for Heir to the Empire, very, very good. Very, very good. I've just actually got the first 2 of the new Thrawn trilogy. The first book, surprisingly, just called Thrawn, and the second book called Alliances. And it's sort of how Thrawn gets introduced to the Empire, and how he rises through the ranks to become, the Grand Admiral, and become almost someone who, the Emperor can trust just as well as, Darth Vader. and someone who even Vader would know he would never ever be able to get away with killing, like we've seen him done before with other Imperial officers, because he knows how valuable Thrawn is. So I really enjoyed when Thrawn showed up in Rebels. He was a really good protagonist. I think that the series, to be honest, when Thrawn comes in as that new antagonist, it boosts the series up massively. I think it was a fantastic way to do it. Apparently, Thrawn is going to appear in the Ahsoka series, which I'm definitely looking forward to. Like I say, I think that could be a very good series as well when that comes out. But in terms of sort of new Star Wars films themselves, I definitely think there needs to be a new Star Wars film. I would love to see them talk more about like the Jedi and the Sith. I know they've talked very recently, and there's been a lot of news about them doing a Old Republic series of films, which I think again would be very, very good. Do I want them to do a Knights of the Old Republic based on the Bethesda games, featuring Revan? No. No, I don't think a game featuring on those would be very good, to be honest. Not a game, a film would be very good. Like I say, it's never ever really worked out before in the past. So I have very little hope. Well, it might be good, but I've already seen it, you know. You can go online and literally watch the a silent playthrough of someone playing through like Knights of the Old Republic, the film, or the game, the film, I suppose it's called. But yeah, I think it would be interesting, an Old Republic film. Because again, going back to Star Wars Visions, what is it? Not the Duel. The Old Master, that's it. You have a Sith. We don't know what the time period is, because it doesn't unfortunately say what the time period is, but it states it is. But we have basically an old Sith just turn up and start causing trouble, which leads to, again, a very good duel. By the way, I must mention this as well. The action sequences in Star Wars Visions, very, very good. Very, very good. I mean, the twins, need I say more? The twins was a fantastic episode. I mean, you have the Sith that ends up in that with 8 lightsabers, 2 of them being contained in their stiletto heels. In an absolutely, again, amazing fight sequence. Again, go watch Star Wars Visions. It's fantastic. But overall, I do think it's going to be sort of an interesting time for Star Wars. I just wish they could do the same with the Muppets. Although the Muppets Haunted Mansion, you know what, it was pretty good. You know what, if you're feeling down, go watch the Muppets Haunted Mansion Halloween special. It's actually really good. You know, comes away with making you something like feel really good and happy about yourself. And I think sometimes there can be a lot said to be something about that. I think that's good sometimes. I think you do need media sometimes that, you know, makes you just feel good about yourself. So I think I've run out of stuff about Star Wars that I want to talk about. I think I've said everything I possibly can at the moment about it, although haven't really gone too deep into the new films. But maybe another time. Maybe another time. I had session 0, by the way, of my Curse of Strahd game last Tuesday. And we're going to have the first session coming up soon. We've got an interesting cast of characters. 2 of them, and you know, if you've got Tasha's Cauldron and everything, you know about the Armourer, or the Artificer class, and especially the subclass, the Armourer, which is basically just begging you to create Iron Man. That's basically what they're begging you to create. And one of the players has done exactly that. The character's name is Anton Stank. You know, original character. Please do not steal. Old and cynical compared to you. Like I say, I do think, you know, Star Wars is one of those franchises that had a lot. It's had a lot going for it, and I think that the more like people have been allowed to play like in the realm of Star Wars and play in that sandbox, I think the better it is has sort of become. And don't get me wrong, even in the expanded universe, there are some absolutely terrible books and comics that have been written over the years that are way worse than even like the original, not the original trilogy, the quote, what do we call it now? Like episodes 1 to 3. I want to say the new trilogy, but the old trilogy, the middle trilogy. But yeah, 1 to 3 were way yeah. There's some awful books out there about Star Wars. Most unfortunately, one about called The Crimson Empire, which I have. Again, I really like the first volume of it, but the second one was awful. And that was about a sort of surviving Imperial Guard, and sort of how he survives sort of in like the post Empire world, with the downfall of the Empire, and how he survives and what he gets up to. Rebels also ran a snappy t-shirt campaign with a slogan as "Empire out and give Quiche a chance." But yeah, like I say, I am optimistic about the future of Star Wars. I do think it's going to have a good series, and like I say, I enjoyed 8 and 9. I really did. I really did enjoy 8 and 9. I really don't get what all the fuss was about. I really enjoyed 8 and 9. 9 probably not so much as 8, but 8 was definitely very good, because I definitely enjoyed some of it. There we go. Oh yeah. And I haven't told my other story, have I? I've met Admiral Akbar. Like I've met the original guy who was in the costume of Admiral Akbar, to a point where I've been drinking with the man. And he told me that there was actually a scene that he filmed in that new series, in especially 8 and 9, where it was Admiral Akbar who gives Finn the mission to go on his little quest with Rose. And that was cut from the film. So that does exist somewhere, because he has told me it does exist. So it's somewhere. So, yeah, very, very good. He was a brilliant guy. God, I can't remember his name now. But yeah, my uncle somehow randomly managed to know him and meet him. And then he ended up coming to sort of my uncle's wedding out in a couple of years ago now. And he was on the stag do as well. So it was amazing. Note to self, ignore my movie recommendations. I'll have you know I have a good taste in films. I have a very excellent taste in films. Yeah, it was actually really, really quite cool, because he's like a puppeteer. That's what he was. He was involved heavily with like all the sort of animatronic stuff. Pinewood, that's it. He's heavily involved in that side of things. We'll agree to disagree. You know what I should do sometime? We should do like a watch party. I might see if I can't set that up at some point. That might be quite fun. Like we'll use either like the Netflix or the Disney Plus, you know, watch party link, and I'll just send it out. And then again, I can't actually, you know, show the film, but you know, there's nothing stopping me from broadcasting my reactions to it, you know, and just talking together throughout the film. That might be quite cool, actually. I might see if we can't set that up at some point. But it's like, what would we watch? What would we watch? Anyway, we are, daisy, coming to once again to the end of our, as always, wonderful good morning walk. Like I say, thank you so much to all of you for joining me. I'm just going to go in the tunnel, finish it off here today. It's a bit, it's getting a bit wet now. But yes, once again, thank you very much all for joining me and indulging me yet again for being talking quite geeky about some of these subjects. But you know, it will, you know, it's what I'm talking about at the moment. Next week, I don't know. I'll let fate decide next week what we talk about. But yeah, we'll talk about something fun next week. So like I say, thank you one and all for always, you know, joining me, you know, supporting me during this interesting time. I know a lot of you want to hear my opinions about politics, but you know, I've said why I can't for the moment. But trust me, having to bite my tongue is really difficult, because it's really difficult sometimes not to just, you know, turn the camera on or do a live stream about, you know, making a video about this. But you know, it's an interesting job, it's a fun job. But yeah, we'll just have to see where it goes and what happens with it. But yes, as always, thank you very much for joining us on this good morning walk. I'm off to I don't know how It's indoors, I think. Off to a quote supper club out in Eltica, which is going to be quite interesting this afternoon. But as always, thank you very much, one and all, for joining us again on this Good Morning Walk. And as always, we'll see you next Saturday for another Good Morning Walk.